Hi, everyone. Um, as some of you know me, you also know me by um, Dr. Talismay Copeland. And some of you know me as Liz Whitehorse. There's a lot of explanations around that, and this video isn't really about that. It's just to kind of bring some things together for you. And now that we have an official working title for my next book, um, which is going to be Out of the Shadows of Breast Implant Illness. It's a spiritual journey. Let that land. Um, I want to share with you some of my background, my contemplations in naming this book, and in my intention in writing this book, and see if it resonates with you. And if you have questions, I'm happy to help. But it also, I think the explanations of why things come into being and creating something that never existed before. That's our pure art, you know, and understanding a piece of art when we go to a museum or a gallery and seeing it, the background um, is one vision, but letting it just wash over you and fill you and land in you so that you can embody the art. That's another perspective. Um, while I was going through my journey, 35 years of having breast implants, um, there was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of roller coasters. A lot of things happened that I wouldn't have wanted. Um, when I was about 14 or 15, I knew who I was. I knew myself. I knew what I liked. I knew my style. I knew my standards. I knew my purpose. I knew why I was born, and I knew why my interesting, chaotic, loving, mystical childhood was the way that it was, and that had been written the way it was. Um, and then sometimes we choose to forget. We choose to forget because we want to star in a movie. You know, we want a good role in a good movie, you know, and what better movies for a young girl than a romantic comedy? And so I had a series of romantic comedies in my life come in, and I think some of us can relate. Um, when we're old, I'm almost 70, we laugh at the folly of our youth and our unknowing, and how it, even in its shadow, led us to unearth or excavate beautiful, beautiful gifts. And in the process of these last 40 some years, 50 years almost, I have come across some knowings about myself. And I want to share a little bit about things that you may not know. Um, I do think that as a collective, our humanity gets lost in the shadows of vanity, and it gets distorted. We forget what it is most essential to our well-being and to our personal growth. We forget. We forget. We all have different reasons, different excuses, different alibis, but we forget. I love showing people more mindful, conscious ways of living where they are. And I've told my students for years and years, meet your client where they are. Be realistic in your assessment of where they are. Be mindful of who they are. I like disciplines and modalities that help us not just to become more mindful, but more enriched in our daily living. Ways that help us to keep our hearts open, no matter what happens to us. Even in our despair, the worst things can happen, and we can still have an open heart. And there are techniques and disciplines, modalities that help you to keep your heart open as you're journeying through them to heal. When we create that shadow by choosing to forget our magnificence and we go into that shadow, that underworld, we dive into Hades or descend into Hades. We have experiences and then we come back up. We get glimpses of who we were. I frequently will go home to the ranch in Kansas that I was raised and look at the land and look at the trees, look at the yard where my sisters and I used to play, look at the wheat fields, watch the cattle grazing. It's a breath that I love to breathe. It's a memory that takes me to myself. My whole life was not lived with that on a day-to-day basis. But those memories, that beingness, that magnificence, that royal upbringing that I had, well, queen, I was the Copeland princess for years, graduated. It is still in me. And most of you know that I talk about holographic healing. You know, you see one version here, you see one version there, you see another version here, you see another version here, you see one there, but the whole version exists at all times. It's just which side, which channel, which door, which perspective, which angle, which theory we use to access that piece of us. But we are not pieces. We are whole. We are whole. And integrating and alchemizing even those dark little shadows inside that we've tucked away because we don't want everybody to see them. We don't want them to see our anxiety, our fear, our rage, our resentment, our homicidal tendencies sometimes. We don't want nobody to see that. We tuck it in. We tuck it in. We repress it. Sometimes we develop addictions to offload those feelings, but they never go away because you can't offload what is. It's in your container. It's in your beingness. You can transcend it and you can look at a lighter perspective. You can look at the core of your being, who you are in your essence. You can look at that and not be horrified, not be scared, because nothing transforms us like love. Like love. I was so blessed to have the love of two people in my life as a child that brought me up with loving eyes, never looked upon me with judgment or concern or ridicule. Never. I don't remember one bit of that. Now, my parents, on the other hand, I was orphaned when I was a month old. I was brutally raped and molested and left for dead when I was 4 years old. And those are incidences, that events that happened. They got tucked into some shadow in there. They maybe weakened my holograph. Okay, maybe there was some darkness coming through more abundantly at times, but it didn't change who I was. It never changed who I was. Never. And our association with that divinity keeps coming through. It comes through in our music. It comes through in our art. It comes through in our poetry, in our creations. It comes through in our compassion and our kindness. Those bits and pieces and aspects of us are whole and significant. We just have to see them from either the lower perspective or higher perspective. But sometimes when you're orbiting them, it doesn't look so good sometimes. Don't judge it. Just be with it. Be with it. Let it alchemize in you. Okay? Distill that shadow. Put some light on it. See how light comes in? But don't reject it, because you're absolutely perfect who you are. Absolutely perfect. In my adventures, I have been a role model for young women to learn how to take care of themselves in aesthetics, in education, in childbirth, in nutrition, in decorating, in modeling. There's a lot of avenues my creative artistry and energy has gone into. And sometimes it feels like it's a new thing I'm onto, but it's not. It's the same creative core expression. I just channel it in different ways. Okay, but it's the same energy. So to me, I get to have a fresh new adventure. But to other people, it looks like it's just more drama, like I can't decide. Yeah, I've not changed. I love the adventures. I love the exploration. I love delving deep into my sovereignty. Okay? I love remembering my real self. And I love helping young women, old women, children remember and become all that they have the potential and possibilities to become. So, with that being said, when you see and read or hear this book, Out of the Shadows, A Breast Implant Illness, A Spiritual Journey, I want you to keep that in mind. It is not who I am. It is what I went through and what I came out on the other side knowing about who I really am way back when I was 14, 15 years old. I got it. I had moved out of my grandparents' home when I was about 14, 15. I decorated a 2-bedroom home and lived alone and started writing and started doing art and started cooking really good meals. You know what? I look around, nothing's really changed. I still live in a beautiful home. It's still decorated wonderfully. I still have beautiful friends come to visit. and spend the night or two. We still discuss food, healthy food, organic food, how to cook, how to can, how to preserve, how to meet our own needs. We still contribute to our communities. We still give back. We still laugh and enjoy each other's stories. We still look beautiful. We still dress up. We still put on our makeup and our lipstick every day. But there's so much more. There's so much more now at 70 than there was at 14 or 15. So much more. You know, along the way, I had a hysterectomy early in my life. And one of the techniques that therapists used to talk to me about is, if you had a uterus, what would it say? What would it tell you? Because it's supposed to like represent your creative self, your core self. And that question very early on, I think this was like the late 1970s, got me into understanding my creative power, my feminine, divine, mystical creative power, and how I had distorted it, how I had forgot about it, how I had put it aside because I'd rather be in another movie that I thought was more glamorous, or, you know, keeping up with the Barbie models. Not my path, not my path. And I dare say that having breast implants is anybody's path, but if you give it to God or your higher self or your higher power or the angels or the divine feminine energy, they can help you craft a beautiful legacy out of it. And that's worth a lot. Guiding the women who come after us, not that I have to, but I feel called to. I feel called to be that role model. I feel called to share some wisdom, some experience with people. And, you know, if I can help, I'm happy to help. I think in the end, for me, of this book, it's the truth that matters. To me, truth is like the light. It is the genius that lives in us, that suddenly comes out of that shadow. It breaks free. It illuminates. It guides. It directs. It creates things that have never been created before. It asks questions that no one's dared ask. It establishes a new consciousness. And with that being said, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. So please buy the new book that should be out within a couple of weeks. Out of the Shadows, A Breast Implant Illness as a Spiritual Journey by Dr. Copeland. Mwah. Love you, love you, love you, and will always love you.